Hello and welcome to the third episode of the MyMuddlings podcast. My name is Julianne and I'm coming to you from Adelaide in South Australia, which is where I live, where it's a nice, bright, sunny, late winter day. So it's nice and bright out there. I've actually just popped Granger outside because he was being very annoying, and I thought it's nice and warm, it's sunny, you can get out there. So thank you very much for joining me today. If you're a returning viewer, I really appreciate you coming back, and if you're a new viewer, thanks so much for checking me out. I'm going to have a bit of a dyeing dominated podcast today. I have been doing a lot of dyeing and I've been having a lot of fun actually. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. I do have a little bit of knitting to talk about. I don't have a lot. I haven't actually done a lot. I've not really had I've not had the mojo for it, I don't think. Yeah, I've been a little bit down the last couple of weeks, a bit tired. Everything just feels a bit like an effort. So I haven't actually done a lot. But I do have some things to talk about, so we'll just get along with it. So we'll start with my handmade wardrobe. Today I am wearing this top, and I sewed this, it was quite a while ago, probably 2014 I would think. And this is the Renfrew top, which is by Sewaholic. And I just got the PDF pattern, and this is the variant with the cowl neck, as you can see, quite a large cowl neck. And this is just from some stripy, I think it was jersey. I got this from Spotlight, although it is quite thick. It's a bit more like a ponte type of knit, I think, although it was advertised as a jersey. So that's just some stripe. I like the pink and the blue. I sometimes feel like it's a bit of a rugby style top because it's got the stripes on it, but I do really enjoy wearing this one. I don't think I changed a lot about the pattern on this one other than lengthening it. I did find that the Renfrew pattern was a little bit short because I do have a very long body, so I did add, I think, about 1.5 inches to the length. But other than that, it's all exactly as the pattern states. This is the second one, I think, that I made of the Renfrew pattern, and I do have some jersey in my stash to make some more, and those probably won't be with the cowl. I'll probably do a V-neck and a round neck, and this actually does, I think this is the round neck pattern. It's just got some zigzag stitch there to hold the inside of the collar down. So yeah, this is one, it's quite a nice warm knit really. So I don't usually have to wear anything over the top of this, which is quite nice. So yes, that's the Sewaholic Renfrew top. Also, I'll just quickly note, I am wearing my glasses today because it makes it a lot easier for me to be able to see what's actually going on my screen, because I'm very short-sighted. So I am wearing those today, so I apologise if they are reflecting a little bit of the light, because I'm in, I think I mentioned before, I have a very large picture window here in my lounge room. And you may be seeing some little reflections on my glasses, so I apologise if that's annoying, but it's much easier for me to see if I'm actually wearing my glasses. So yes, so let's get on to what's off the needles this week. I have a pair of socks which were for my Just One More Row 12 and 16 and my boxer socks cowl. These are a pair of ankle socks because that was the August prompt for the Just One More Row knit along. And these are the Valmu. I've got my iPod in front of me, so my iPad, sorry, so that I can find this out for you. And this is the Valmu pattern by Trude Hairtas, and they're just little ankle socks. I'll show you them here, just on the blockers there. I will pull them off so that you can see you know, the pattern on the top. These are really simple. I've finished these in a week, so they didn't take me very long at all. They haven't been blocked yet because I only cast off the second sock this morning. So I'll show you that there. So there's the pattern there. I'll just open that out. So it's a bit of a swirly sort of pattern in the middle here, and then some little, it's like a slip stitch where you slip the stitch right over 2 stitches, then you yarn over in the middle, and then just a little rib on the side there, and they have this little 12 round ribbing on the top, and it's just a normal heel flap and gusset on those. And the pattern actually describes the toe as a star toe, but the bellflower socks, which I spoke about last week, had the star toe, which was very clearly a star. You could see the points, whereas this is more, let's see if I can fold it out. You can kind of see that there, where it just sort of creates, it like radiates into that center section there, where you just slip the yarn through and pull it tight just to finish those off. So yes, like I said, these took me just a week to finish these. I knit these in Knit Pick Stroll, and this is the Rouge colourway, and it took a ball for the 2 of them. I have fairly big feet. I have size 9 Australian feet, so I was looking at the projects of other people who have knit these socks, and a lot of them have only 5 repeats, and I'm thinking, gosh, these people have got really small feet, because I've actually ended up with 7 repeats before the toe on mine. So I haven't actually tried these on yet, and I probably should, but I do measure all of my socks with my sock ruler. I have a sock ruler, which are really, really handy. So yes, I made sure these were the right length, because you're supposed to stop 2 inches shy of the length that you want before you start the toe. So that was 7 repeats for me. So yes, I knit these on my regular 2.5mm higher 9-inch circulars, and which I really enjoy, because I can just keep knitting around, don't have to worry about breaks in the DPNs, and I really am not a magic loop fan. So I knit these on my 9-inch circulars, and they took me a week, and I'm done for my August socks, so that's good. And I still need to get a box for my boxer socks, Cal, because that's part of being in the running for the prize. I have to find a box. I did go down to our local Officeworks the other day and had a look. They do have like a section of sort of the designer office products, and I did see a box there, but it wasn't really my kind of, it was pretty, but it was oranges and yellows and not my colours. If it was purples and pinks and blues, I probably would have bought it, but I didn't. So that's still something that I have to work on. So that's what's off the needles this week. On the needles, I don't really have a lot, because like I said, I haven't really been doing a lot of knitting. I was working on my Port Moody shawl, which I showed you in last week's podcast, and I was working on it, but I'm down to the very, very last section, and the last section has what they call trellis lace, which is just pretty much, you know, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, and the needles that I have that I'm working on that are quite blunt on the tip, and that makes the knit 2 togethers quite tricky to perform, and I'm not really a big fan of that sort of yarn over, knit 2 together knitting anyway. So it was becoming quite a slog, and I was just not enjoying it. So I thought, well, I'm going to put it away. So I mean, I don't like to imbue my knits with too much bad vibes from feeling resentful for having to work on something. So I've put that away for the moment. I hopefully will get that back out shortly and finish that off, because it will be beautiful once it's all blocked out and I can finally wear it. So what I'm actually working on at the moment is something that I've dug out that I actually started quite a while ago. And it's my blue sand cardigan. This is a project that I actually have knit before. I knit one for my mum, and she loves that one, I think. She always says that she likes it, so that's good. And this is a big undertaking. It's a very big cardigan. I think there was nearly 2,000 meters or yards of yarn in my mum's cardigan, and I think I'm making the same size as my mum's, so I'm going to be close to that. And I'm now down to the final section of the body, which is like a waffle stitch on the bottom, which is, you know, it's not as easy as just knit, 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 purl, 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 knit, 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 purl, 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 but it's not that hard. So I'm working on that at the moment, and from there there's a lot more that still needs to be done, because it does have a big ribbing section down the front with I-cord finishing, and the sleeves which also finish with I-cord, and they're all striped in blocks. And the colours that I'm using for mine, I'll just pick it up and show you. I think yes, I have finished the row. Makes it a little bit easier to show. And I'm doing this in purple, grey and blue. So there you go, that's the top of it there. And I'm now all the way down here, and these are the pocket openings. You actually cast on some, you create some I-cord, if it will focus there, and then you pick up from that, and then that's where the waffle stitches you probably just saw on the bottom there. So I've only really just started that, but I dug that out because I was thinking I always like to go to the Adelaide show every year. I usually go with my parents, and for the last couple of years I've had a sweater that I've knit especially for it. We don't really have, other than Bendigo Sheep and Wool, which was in July last year, which you may have seen on other podcasters' episodes. I didn't go, but we don't really have a lot of sheepy shows like the Rheinbecks and Maryland Sheep and Wool and things like they have in America. So the show is kind of my thing, the Royal Adelaide show. So they have a lot of animals there. A lot of the farmers come in with their animals, and there's, you know, your typical show rides and things like that, and show bags. And not that I really buy any of the show bags anymore. That was something more for when I was a little kid, because you don't often get anything of really good quality in there. The food ones are probably the best ones to get. So yeah, I was thinking hopefully I can try and get this done for the show. So that's what I've been trying to sort of work towards. Yeah, it's going to take a while though, I think, because even just that neck section, there's a lot of short rows, and it's, you know, fatter at the bottom than it is around the top of the neck, and then you've got to do the I-cord to bind the whole lot off. And yeah, the stripes in the sleeves, and there's a panel, the purple panel in my sleeves will actually be the waffle stitch as well. So there's quite a bit left to go on it, but it's a great pattern. I would recommend it to everybody, but it is a very large undertaking. But the pattern is written really well, and the pattern is by, I don't know how to say this properly, and I if you've listened to my audio podcast, you've probably heard me butcher it before, but it's La Maison Rilili is how it's spelt. I'm assuming that it's French, and I do not know anything about speaking French. So yes, so that's who it's by. I'm knitting the extra large size, which is the 43 inch. I think that was probably because I was being a bit optimistic that I might have lost some weight by the time I'd finished this, which I haven't. But yeah, so I'm knitting this out of Bendigo Woolen Mills in their luxury, in their 8-ply yarn, and the colours are slate, blue denim and purple storm. And yeah, I really enjoy this pattern. It's a really, really nice pattern, and it makes a very big, warm cardigan. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hopefully having that finished by the show. Hopefully I'll be able to go this year with my folks. They've been a little unwell lately, so hopefully they'll be well in time to go, which will be good. And if you follow me on Instagram, where I am Anne of Julie, so ANNEOFJULIE, you would have seen that I was out at the pub a couple of nights ago, and I was actually doing my crochet hexagon blanket while I was there. I only managed to nut out 3 hexagons while I was there, and I was breaking in my new crochet hook because I saw these on the Yarngasm podcast. She mentioned that she enjoyed using these tulip crochet hooks, so I treated myself to one for my hexagon blanket, and it's actually quite nice. I quite like it. I find that I can crochet with my fingers a little bit straighter instead of being clenched, because I actually did have quite a lot of problems with my hands when I first started knitting because I was tensioning the yarn with my little fingers. So yes, I'm using my new tulip, fancy crochet hook, and I finished, as I said, 3 hexagons. So I've got this one there, and this middle colour, I really enjoy this one. This is really nice. That was from Stranded in Oz. That was, I think, a limited edition colour called Puny Human, and it was in her singles base. So there's that. And this one, which is some Unwind Yarn Company in the middle, and that was in her Death Watch Beetle, which was a limited edition Halloween colourway, and then some Tanis Fibre Arts on the outside. And the last one that's the Malabrigo in there. That's the I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced. It's Pocion, Pocion. Again with the Tanis Fibre Arts on the outside. So that's all I've done really this week for my crochet. I haven't started joining any yet because, like I said last podcast, I'd rather wait and then I can arrange, especially because I'm using the different coloured borders on them. If I can try and evenly distribute the borders around the blanket would be the ideal thing to do. So I'm just doing these as I feel like it. Sometimes they're very I've memorized how to do them now, so they're quite intuitive, so I can just happily sit down, and if I don't feel like knitting on anything else, I can just whip up a couple of these and I still feel like I'm doing something, so which is quite good. So that's my crochet. Alright, let's talk about all this dyeing that I said that I had. I got an order in this week from Knit Picks with some jacquard dyes in it, and I did already have those Greener Shades dyes which I spoke about previously, but the jacquard dyes, you don't really need to mix them because they do come in actual colours, like variants of colour, so I thought that might be a bit easier. So what I've been doing, as I'm just looking because I've got it all laid out here, is I've been trying out lots of different dye techniques because I've been thinking about moving towards adding some dyed yarn to my Etsy shop, and it's kind of where my creative mind is going to at the moment, is to try and make really pretty yarn. So that's what I've been working on a lot over the last 3 days. I dyed up, I think it's 15 skeins here. I bought some bare yarn, so I've been working on different dye techniques and just learning and seeing what works what way and what I prefer, what I enjoy doing, which ones are a bit of a hassle and I don't really want to do any more of, etc, etc. As part of my Knit Picks order where I got the jacquard dyes, I actually got 2 books, and these are books that I saw recommended on the Dyer's Notebook podcast, which is Laura from Jinx Yarns. And this one, the first one is Hand Dyeing Yarn and Fleece by Gail Callahan, and that's that one there. So I bought that one. These books are really great actually because they're ring bound, which is quite handy really. Not really seen that too often. So that's the first one. I've really enjoyed looking through that one. And the second one is Teach Yourself Visually Hand Dyeing, which is by Barbara Parry. So, which is also in a ring-bound format. So I've only really flicked through these. I haven't read them entirely. I've probably spent more time looking at the Hand Dyeing Yarn and Fleece book. And I've just been looking at quickly at the types of dyeing that she talks about in there. So I've been having a bit of a crack and trying out, yeah, like I said, trying out different ways of dyeing. I also have been watching the Dyer's Notebook podcast, and she does Laura does include some good tips and tutorials and things in there. I haven't got too far into it. I think I'm only 20 odd episodes in, so I've got a few little tips and tricks from her. And then she also had a bit of a vlog from when she was in New York with Kristen of Yarngasm podcast of her Wool and Vine yarns, and so they did a collaboration between Jinx Yarns and Wool and Vine yarns, and they have a bit of a video showing how Laura's colourway was made up. So I've given that style of dyeing a bit of a crack as well. So how about I show you something instead of just talking. The first thing I'll probably talk about is I did some tonals yesterday because I was doing a lot of multicoloured yarns. Sorry, I just have to reach. Over the last few days, and I thought, well, I want to try some tonals because I personally prefer to knit with tonals. I'm not a huge variegated yarn kind of fan. I do have a lot of variegated yarn, but it's something that I've sort of moved away from using. I find it's quite tricky to find patterns that fit sometimes, just because the variegation does hide a lot of you know, the effort that you go to in making the pattern. So yes, because I'm more of a tonal yarn user, I thought that's would be a good thing for me to do. Now all of these I have how did I do it? They're all 3-stage dyes. There's 3 different tones of colour in each of them. I dyed these in skein form, so twisted into a skein, and then I've done one layer of dye, I've taken it out, twisted the skein a different way, put it in another colour, and then at the end I've undone the skein and just laid it in the pot and added the next layer of dye. So I've got 3 that I did that way, and the first one is this blue. So that's why I love tonals, is you've got you've got these lighter bits here, and then you've got your darker bits, and I just really love the movement of the colour in these. And this was done with the jacquard dyes, and I did this in, let me see, I did turquoise, sky blue and sapphire blue on that one. So that was the 3 layers, and I just went from light to dark. So that's the blue tonal that I've done. This next one's purple, which is my favourite colour. So I've got some great dark sections in this. It's not quite as saturated as I was hoping. It's a little bit splodgy. I'm not quite sure why that is. I think I have to do some more experimenting to see why that is. But this had 3 layers, and this was lilac as the base layer, then purple as the next layer, and then burgundy over the top. So that's showing up fairly accurately on my screen. So that's the purple that I did, and then the last one I did that way is this one, which is a pink, and the layers were pink, hot fuchsia and burgundy on that one. So there's quite a bit of variation in the colour there, which I really like. So those were all with dye stock solution, so I'd already put the powders into water and then added to the pot on those ones. Now I did do 2 other tonals that I did in 2 different dye methods. So those were all done with sort of a high water level, like a high immersion sort of, of water level, where the water pretty much covered the twisted up skein. Just a couple of little islands of the bumps of the skein were popping out the top, so that it was pretty high water level. And I did a couple more that I did in a speckled, so I still did the 3 layers of, or 3 different colours, but I did them as a speckle. So I just put the dye, a little bit of dye on the top of the spoon and tapped it across my pot, and then used a spoon just to sort of tamp it down and help it to distribute. And I didn't like stir, I just gently pressed down to make the dye get into the hot, the simmering water, almost simmering water, and to sink down. And these 2 were done in different water levels, and they actually had opposite effect to what I actually thought was going to happen, which was really weird. The first one is this one. It looks like I got a little bit of blue in there, and I'm not quite sure how. You can see the little bits of blue, but this one was a low water immersion, and I thought that the low water immersion would actually have more of a speckled look to it, and it does. I mean, it does have, you can see there's some darker red there, and you can see little speckles through there, especially of that last layer, I think, of the red. And that one, what did this one have on it? It was vermilion, scarlet and fire red in this one. So that was the low immersion one, and I thought this one would be more speckled, but I did a green, and this was with the high water level, and you can see it's actually a lot more speckled than that last one, which was not what I was expecting. I thought having the extra water in there would actually make the dye would dissolve and distribute before it actually got to the yarn, but strangely it actually came out more speckled, so you can see quite a lot of speckling in there. So this one, what did I use on this one? I can't even remember now. I did write them down, I did make notes, but this one was emerald on the base, teal and spruce, I think were the 3 colours that I used in that. So I did that exactly the same as the red one, where I sprinkled it in, just tapped a spoon, just sprinkled a little bit in, tamped it down with the spoon, and yeah, that's what I got. I really quite like it. And to be honest, I think I prefer adding the dry dye to the pot. Making dye stock solution is a bit fiddly, and once you have some left over, I don't actually have a lot of storage pots, so you then have to do something with the leftover dye, whereas if you're just using the powder and speckling it on, you don't have that waste of or just you have dye stock solution of all these colours like sitting around. So yeah, I think I prefer the spotty look of it as well, like just the speckles just gives that little extra punch, and I can imagine that would look really pretty through your knitting. So that's my tonals I did 5 tonals, that was yesterday's work. The next lot that I'm going to talk about were ones that I just speckled, so much the same as the tonal ones where I've just speckled the dyes straight into the water. These were multicoloured ones, so variegated ones, and I did all of these in a low immersion, so only a small amount of water, and then the different powders speckled on. So here's the first one. So that's just got some hot fuchsia, I think, some purple, I think that was sapphire blue, and then just some black as the final speckle. So it was, they spread quite a lot. They don't sit, not that that's what I wanted, but you kind of, when you learn about dyeing, if you've got the right pH, if the temperature of the water is at the right point, which is sort of just before simmering, the colour should really grab really quickly and not spread too much. But these spread a little bit, and I think it's actually quite cool because then you get some mixing and then you get some colours that you weren't really actually aiming for. This one kind of reminds me a bit of graffiti, you know, like just the splashes of colour and that kind of thing. I find it kind of, yeah, it reminds me of graffiti, so I quite like that one. It's all my favourite colours in there, so the pinks and the purples and the blue and just that little bit of black just to, you know, give it an edge. So it's that one. This was the first one that I actually did, which didn't turn out at all like I was hoping for, and this had a bunch of colours on it, and it was, I think it was much the same colours as this one, but it spread a lot more. So we've got purple in there, we've got some hot pink, and there's green, if you can see that. I think that was sort of like a spruce, the spruce colour, I think is what that was. And this one, it really spread out. This wasn't like, I was expecting it to be a lot more sort of isolated speckles, but it did spread a lot, so it wasn't actually what I was aiming for, but it actually worked out really well. I actually really like this. This is probably my second favourite of the lot that I did. So there's still some little bits of white in there as well, just to give a bit of interest. And these skeins, when I dyed them, I actually just laid them out in the pot and then speckled over the open skein in the pot. So that's the second one, and then this one. And this one's greener shades dye on this one, and it was let me think. I think it was ruby red, amethyst purple, and river blue, and then it had some black speckles just over the top. So they're the speckled ones that I did. And what next? With these ones were done much like what I described that I did with Simon's yarn in the last podcast, I think it was, where I've done a third of the pot in 3 different colours. So I've made the dye stock solution, poured it over the 3, like I basically divided my pot into 3. So that was one that I've done. I had done this one when I did the other yarn I showed you for the mitts that I'm going to be knitting. So I can't actually remember what I did. I didn't take notes of these original ones that I did, so I can't actually remember what this one was, but it was just the three different colours through the pot, and they've just sort of seeped together and created this more mottled yarn. So it's actually really pretty. It's all the purples. I like the purples, so that was that one. And then this one was much the same. So this was just the ruby red, amethyst purple, and river blue. And these have been reskeined so that the colours are a little bit more distributed. So that's that one. And then the last 2 types that I did were much like, one type, it was much like what I did with the tonals, where I had the skein twisted up and then applied layers of colour. And I kind of got that idea from watching a video by the dyer behind Light Brown Hair, which is an Etsy shop, and she has a really informative dyeing tutorial where she adds layers of colour, and it's really quite interesting to see how the layering, I think she mostly uses primary colours on her, with her dyeing, and just to see her layering them to create the other colours. So I've sort of, these ones were inspired by her instruction, And so I used similar colours to what she did to see if I could get a similar result. I didn't get them, it didn't come out quite like she did. She's obviously more experienced than me, but I do actually really like these. One of these I prefer to the other, but these were basically, that's the first one, and I don't know if it's really showing up quite. It's very, I call this one the muddy rainbow because it's got so many different colours in it, but it does look muddy. It actually looks better on the screen than it does in real life. It looks a bit like it's been rolled through wet grass, so it's kind of got that yellowy green colour to it. And this was basically created by layering a yellow. This one was the same, apart from the last layer. So they had yellow as the base colour, then I added a blue. No, I didn't. Sorry. I started with the yellow as the base layer, and then I put a red layer on, which made it a bit orange, with retwisting between each layer. And then I knotted the skeins in 3 places and then put them in blue. And then this one had black, where I knotted it in one spot, so I'd keep the clear colours. You can kind of see there's some yellows and oranges there were quite clear, then the rest are a little bit muddy. And that was, I did one knot in a really bright section that I really liked, and then dunked it and let it sit in the black. But the black, it didn't come out very saturated at all, so it's more of a muddy look. But I mean, it's still quite attractive. It's got a lot of different colours in there that are really quite nice. And this one, I used some of that was the day that I got my jacquard dyes, so I used the gunmetal as the final layer, so it's a bit more blue. And this is probably my preference out of the two of them. I call the other one the muddy rainbow, I call this one grumpy rainbow, because it's got the blue. So yeah, they're pretty fun. I like those. That's probably, I do enjoy this type of layering, the twisting and the layering, because when you twist it, it naturally adds resists, and the colour doesn't penetrate all the way through. So that's quite clever the way that works, really. But it's, you know, it makes sense. And this one was done a similar way, so it's just the layers, and this only had, I think, 3 or so colours in it. I can't actually remember what I put in this one, but it was a yellow layer on the bottom, and then I added a blue, so that's why it's quite green. And then I think I actually put some, there's dog hair on it, serves me right putting it on the floor. And then I think I did a grey over the top, so that one's quite pretty. And the last 3 skeins I did as dip dyeing, various dip dyeing methods. So this one, first one, the colours are quite pretty in this one. It was supposed to be 3 different colours, but the yarn fell in the pot, so it was a bit of a stuff up, but it did turn out really nice. I did teal to begin with, and I used a spoon across the top of the pot and suspended 2/3 of the skein over the spoon, and then 1/3 of the skein was in the teal dye. And then I was supposed to do the second third as this was actually chestnut, but it's actually come out quite, it's almost like a rusty brown rather than a deep chestnut. And it was supposed to be 1/3 in the chestnut, but like I said, the skein fell in. But that was pretty cool because the teal, obviously the yarn took up as much dye as it could in the teal, so when it actually fell into the chestnut, not all of the teal sections took up the dye, so that was really interesting. It was a stuff up, but it actually taught me something. It was actually quite interesting. So yeah, 2/3 of it is that chestnut colour, but you can see there's a lot of variation in the deeper and the lighter sections. So it's actually really pretty. I quite like that one. I wouldn't know what you would call that. Because I've been thinking about if I do want to dye to sell is what I would call these, and I've never been really good at naming things, so yeah, that'll be my next challenge, is to try and name things if I choose to sell them. Now this one is my favourite, and I'm actually going to keep this one because I really like it, and I don't want to part with it. And this was another dip dye method where it wasn't in the pot like that last one. This was actually in 3 separate containers with 3 different colours in it, and this one was spruce burgundy and silver grey is this one. So pretty much I just got the skein, the middle went into the grey and the 2 ends went into the spruce and the burgundy, and that way the skein, because it's a loop, has 2 sections of grey in between with the 2 ends of the colours, so that turned out really nice. And this one's on a superwash merino, I think, and nylon base, so it took the colours quite nicely. So I think I'm going to keep this one for myself because I quite like that one. And this last one, it was kind of a dip dye method, but in the book, the Hand Dyeing Yarn and Fleece book, she talks about doing a dry, like a dry and wet dye, so that you get variations. I haven't actually read the full theory, I just looked at how to do it. I don't really know what the theory is behind why it creates the variation, but it does. Presumably because the dry half of the skein takes the dye slower because it's got to, or faster, I don't know. But anyway, this one, it came out really tonal. So what I did is I had the yarn soaking, you know, just to wet it before I dyed it. Then I got half of the skein, I squeezed it right out and let it hang outside the pot that I was soaking them in. And just every now and then, once I was pottering around doing other things, I'd just squeeze it out every now and then just to get rid of some water, to have it as the dry side. And then as I put it in, I put the wet side in and then just laid the top, like the dryish side, on the top and just let it sort of soak in. So I guess the section that was in the water the longest is going to be a bit darker, so you've got those light and dark sections. This one I actually really like, and this was done just really haphazardly. I didn't weigh anything or anything like that, and it was emerald colour with a touch of the grey and a little bit of red just to dull it down a little bit. But it's actually still quite a fresh, it looks a little bit bluer on the screen than what it actually is, and there's some little, if you can see, some little flecks of red have actually come out in there, and I actually really like that. So that was really fun. I like this one a lot. So that's all the dyeing that I've done. So there you go. So if you are interested in dyeing, I'm hoping that my descriptions of what I've done and you can see what I dyed might help you a little bit if you're interested in dyeing, and give you some idea of where to start with techniques and things. I'm by no means an expert. I'm only learning myself, but I've been having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I think the results are pretty good. I think I'm pretty proud of myself, so that's good, because it gives me a little bit of pride in what I'm doing, which is very nice. So that's pretty much all I've got for you today. There wasn't a lot of knitting content, but hopefully you enjoyed the dyeing, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can do that in many ways. I am on Ravelry as Anne of Julie, same as my Instagram handle. And there is a board on there for the MyMuddlings podcast. We don't have a lot of members at the moment, so if you are on Ravelry, please come down and join the group. That would be really nice to see some new faces in there, and there's a thread there for introducing yourself, so please introduce yourself and let me know where you're from and what you like to make. And what else? I have my shop, which is www.mymuddlings.etsy.com. And I do have an Instagram for MyMuddlings, but it's not very active. If you want to see the most activity, probably go to Anne of Julie. And I have a blog, which is available at www.mymuddlings.com. And I also have a Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/mymuddlings. So you can find some bits and pieces on there too. So I'm available in lots of places, so please come find me. And if you want to friend me on Ravelry or anything like that, go ahead. I will add you back. And yeah, thank you for watching. And I hope to talk to you soon. Okay, bye.